Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name is Savannah Harinkyu if you're new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is Tuesday, October the 19th, and it is a special day, and that is because the latest season of Bammers is available for you to listen today. Now, if you are not familiar with Bammers, that is a podcast from AL.com and from our own Ben Flanagan, who I am joined by today, and it focuses on different aspects of the culture surrounding the Alabama Crimson Tide football, their culture, the fans, and everything there in between. So we are again having season 3 released this morning. It's available right now wherever you listen to podcasts. But I thought it would be interesting to bring Ben on, talk a little bit about the podcast, about what makes this season different and what we can expect. So Ben, thanks so much for coming on, for joining us, and for giving us a little bit of a teaser on what we can expect for the next 7 weeks from Bammers.
Yeah, thank you, Ivana. I appreciate it. And if you're an Alabama fan, really, if you're a college football fan, sports fan, I think that this is something that you will really love. This show in particular with Bammers is all about taking you inside the hearts and minds of Alabama fans and understanding, like you said, the culture of Crimson Tide fandom. And the show really focuses on fans' obsession with Alabama sports, the lengths that will go with our fandom. This is the 3rd season now. I've had seasons past that have had guests like Paul Feinbaum and Laura Rutledge and Conrad Thompson, John Parker Wilson to talk about Alabama football fans. And I've talked to fans across the world, really. We've had episodes about the term sidewalk alumni. We've had episodes about RV culture, which is so prevalent and popular at Alabama, game day fashion, game day weddings, the Iron Bowl rivalry, the media who cover Alabama football, and really just so much more. But with this new season, the 3rd season, we sort of look back on the 2020 season a little bit, sort of the ways the pandemic kind of changed everything by reducing capacity inside Bryant-Denny Stadium by 80%, and the campus's ban on tailgating, which is what today's episode, the first episode of the new season, is about, and sort of like the eerie feeling that created on the empty quad. Like if you went out on a game day last season, you saw that there was literally nobody on the quad, where any other year it would have been bustling, and it just would have been one of the most amazing game day environments countrywide that rivals the Grove and any other on planet Earth. So that was just such a strange feeling. But I've got episodes this season, Ivana, about people who watch Alabama football from all over the world. If they aren't able to come to games in Tuscaloosa, how they keep up with Alabama football if they're not able to actually be there physically. I've got one about people who kind of grow out of Alabama fandom, like even during this amazing run that Nick Saban and the teams have created, people who kind of just like lose interest, if you think that that's possible at all. And I've got one that's about what it's like to be an Alabama basketball fan too. Like we kind of take the microscope away from football and turn it on to basketball as basketball is kind of growing. I talked to one of like the well-known super fans of Alabama basketball about before it got the way it is now under Nate Oates, in terms of like just sort of suffering through those tough years, off and on success as an Alabama basketball fan. So there's really something for everybody. If you're an Alabama sports fan, football fan in particular, but it covers a pretty wide spectrum. And I just really think that if you love Alabama sports and just this culture, you're really going to love this show.
Well, something that I love about podcasts in general is I don't have to be an expert on something to be able to listen to it and enjoy it. And in that same kind of vein, I don't really have to have super strong feelings about something. But if I'm getting all of this information that I had maybe never heard before, that it will sway me one way or the other. So I know that you have said this is for all Alabama fans of all sports and just kind of sports fans in general. But if you are somebody, even somebody who is not from or living in Alabama, I know you grew up in Tuscaloosa, stayed in Tuscaloosa, so this is your world. But if you are somebody who lives maybe across the country and doesn't understand the obsession, or maybe isn't as just involved in college football culture, could you still get something out of this podcast?
Oh, for sure. I think that college football is a part of the fabric of the South, especially. But I mean, it's really a national thing. Obviously, there are people in the North, South, East, and West and all over who love college football, but it obviously makes up so much of the South's identity and culture, as I've mentioned before. And I think that's fascinating, right? Like to understand why fall Saturdays are no time for weddings in the South, right? Like I think there are people who probably just don't get that. Like why at a wedding the union, the betrothal of a couple who are going to spend their lives for the rest of their lives together, that would be off limits because of a football game, right? Or like tailgating. I think people might have trouble sort of I talked to somebody who was from outside of the country, somebody from France, right, who came to work at the University of Alabama and did not understand tailgating, did not understand football at all. But once they tried their first tailgate, they sort of got it, right? They got their window into what makes this click for people, why football and this experience, not just what's on the field, but the whole point of this podcast is sort of like
We are experiencing, as you can see, some technical difficulties here with Ben. He is actually at the beach. He is joining us on his vacation time to give us a little bit of that update about Bammer. So we're going to just wait a second, see if he comes back here. I'm going to remove him from the frame, watch in the studio, see if he is able to connect again. But if you missed any of that, Bammers is again available for download starting today. This is the third season of the podcast. It will be available for the next, so it's always available wherever you listen to your podcast, but those new episodes are going to be available each Tuesday. So again, that is each Tuesday for the next 7 weeks. Now, some of the topics that Ben dives into are tailgating. That is something that I believe he is diving into on today's episode. He will go into other episodes that he mentioned a second ago about Alabama basketball, the kind of era maybe even before Nate Oates, when so many people had to, we'll call it, suffer through those years of Alabama basketball and the new wave that they see coming, the success that they see coming of Alabama basketball. He said that there is something for everybody, even if you aren't an Alabama football or an Alabama sports fan, that you can get something out of Bammers. Not sure, again, if Ben is going to be able to join us again here because of that connection at the beach. I can't feel too bad for him because he is celebrating there at the beach. Getting a lot of roll tides in the comments. Question from Ed, is Georgia or Alabama going to lose to Ohio State in the playoffs? Now, I don't know how qualified I am to answer that question, but I'm going to give you a no. I'm going to assume no there. I think Alabama or Georgia could take on Ohio State there and probably win. Georgia's proved very unstoppable this season, and Alabama, other than that one little kink over at Texas A&M, has proved pretty unstoppable as well. So it's my prediction here, Ed. And again, everybody go listen to Bammers, the latest season of the podcast, available today, every Tuesday for 7 weeks, wherever you listen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sorry about Ben. It's his connection, and we will see you tomorrow.